The
recording is in progress.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
Evening.
Welcome to the March 2nd meeting for the UNNC Planning and Zoning Committee. My name is John Arnold. I am the chair, and with me is
Laura Myers, and I am the co-chair of this committee.
and we're both board members of UNNC. I'm going to share my screen with the agenda. Okay, can everyone see the agenda? Yes?
Yes.
Great. So here's the agenda. Our first order of business is what we've had to do since October is to have an official continuation of the COVID measures, which allows us, which expired at the state level. We have to do it individually at the local level every month, where we just have to state that we are continuing to meet virtually. There's still an emergency in place, and that there'll be that's pursuant to state rules about Brown Act, and that we're still meeting virtually. So with that, that is item number one. Item number two is welcome. Welcome, everybody. Again, I'm John Arnold. I'm Region 6 representative from Jefferson Park. Laura, you're at large from?
Right, I'm an at-large member and also UNNC's current president.
And then what we usually do, if anyone wants to introduce themselves, especially if you're a board member, please do so.
I'll go next, John. Hi, everybody. I'm Teresa Masonette. I'm also on the UNNC board, and I represent Region 3, which is the West Adams Avenues.
Donna, you're usually good for an introduction.
Hello, everybody. Donna Jones from the West Adams Avenues, and thank you.
Great. Would anyone else like to introduce themselves? I know we have a couple of our applicants in the audience, which they'll get an opportunity to introduce themselves later, but they can do so now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Nunn from City 10, Kenny Heights.
Hi, Jacqueline.
Visitor.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Moving on, our next item of business is always to approve the agenda. We have 3 items on the agenda this evening, 3 cases and 7 items. Does anyone want to move to approve the agenda or suggest any changes?
I move to approve the agenda.
Thanks, Donna.
I second.
Great, thanks, Teresa. So we can call the vote. Our standing rules for our committees are whoever is, we do an honor system stakeholder. So if you're a stakeholder in the UNNC area, resident, business owner, belong to an organization in the neighborhood, such as a church, you can be a stakeholder, and everyone who shows up who's a stakeholder is a voting member. That said, we can approve the agenda by a vote of hands. We have a motion on the table. So everyone, please raise your hand if you approve the agenda, either virtually or visually. I gotta look at participants. Is anyone opposed to the agenda? Okay, I'm gonna see that as a none. So let's have the agenda approved. Thank you very much. That's item number 2. Item number 3 is public comments. So anyone who has a public comment about anything that's not agendized this evening, this is your time to speak. We're interested to hear from you. So anyone who has anything to share, please let us know. I can't see the participant.
Okay, I'll speak up. I
Okay.
wanted to speak about the 6th Avenue property. Laura knows about it. Teresa knows about it. We're probably going to have, I would like to just bring it to the group here, talk about the fact that a zone residential lot has been taken over by a construction company to store vehicles and drop off whatever they choose that they're taking from the lot where they're working And it's right there at the corner of 6th Avenue, owned by the church at 5th Avenue. And we have reported it. I reached back to Nicole Deering, and she sent us, which Laura saw, that they are still deciding on whatever, I'm not even sure. But I just wonder what we can do. So wanted to say that.
So we can't discuss it, as you know, but we can agenda.
Yes.
If you want to reach out to me or Laura, we can
Yes.
agendize it for next time. If it's ask us, let us know what it is. Just as a point of clarification, this is the lot that tore down a single family house for a parking lot 10, 15 years ago.
I don't think so. This is the lot at 6th Avenue that never, as far as I know, might have had a house at one point.
Okay.
It's 6th Avenue and Adams.
Yep. Oh, okay.
The small church next to Wilfendale
Yep.
is the owner, and they have the apartment building in the middle, and then there is an empty lot.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks for the clarification. Thanks, Donna.
Uh-huh.
Anyone else have anything to share that's not agendized below?
My hand is up also.
Yeah, I can't see hands if someone could be that.
I'm going to make a public announcement too. I'm kind of piggyback on what Donna said, that lot is being used by the city. My husband is James Masonette is on the HPOZ board, and the woman who works for the city, who works with our HPOZ, informed James that the lot is being used by the city. I think the church rented it or leased it to the city for storing their properties. But I agree with Donna that maybe that's something that can be agendized so that we talk about residential properties being used in for commercial purposes. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Teresa. Any other public comments? Okay, hearing none, let's move on to item number 4. The applicant is here. So last time we heard about this application for a conditional use permit from the Biddy Mason Charitable Foundation in Kinney Heights. It's a nonprofit providing support to youth and families impacted by the foster care system, and the proposed CUP, or is it a CU something else? It's a CU, is it a CUP?
It is a CUP.
To use an existing single family residence as a quote private club, which will be where current and former foster youth can congregate in a clean and safe space to come together, allow engagement and exchange of ideas on civic and social and cultural and literary topics, and help build personal and professional character. So as a point of information, Laura and I visited the site and met with the applicant who's here with us, Ms. Jackie Roxton. And so we can certainly share our experience and what we saw there. But for now, the task before us is for us to discuss if we have any, just to find out what the CUP is all about. Laura and I did that exploratory, look and learn, and then also to maybe suggest, to voice our concerns, and maybe often conditional. Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, John, they did send us the draft proposed conditions. I don't know if you saw it. I have it and could share if you need me to.
Was that just this afternoon?
It might have been yesterday, either early this morning. It's up in the agenda packet too.
Okay. So yes, I would like to say, shall we recommend it to the applicant that they tell us what the rules of the road were going to be, what the hours were going to be, and it was up to us to look at it and see if that fits our community. And because it's a conditional use permit, means it's conditional, so it's subject to conditions. So so I would say yes, if you could share that, Laura. Jackie,
Yeah.
do you want?
You'll need to unshare the.
Sorry.
the-
Sorry, should have done that ages ago. Ms. Jackie, welcome back.
Thank you.
Would you like to, once this comes up, would you like to explain what you have? I haven't read it yet, so I apologize for that. If you want to explain what any process you've gone through in the past week, and let us know what your thoughts are.
Yeah,
I
and I'm so sorry. Why don't you start talking while I'm looking for it? So sorry.
Okay, I apologize. I'm not sure why my video went off. Okay, there I am. Well, first of all, thank you for visiting the site. I think it's really impossible to understand what we're trying to do without seeing the site itself. We met, and I believe Marie Cooper is on tonight. She's taking Aria's place. She's our legal counsel, so you can direct legal questions to her. But we did come up with a draft of conditions. I think there are 16 in total. So if we could just kind of scroll down this together, maybe that would be helpful.
So, Jackie, I also think since we have a few people here who weren't here last time, if you could take 90 seconds and just explain what you do there, what the mission is.
All right, our mission is to provide service and support to young people and families impacted by the foster care system. Los Angeles County has the largest foster care population in the nation. There are 30,000 kids in the system. We began our foundation in 2013, and we have a heavy emphasis on scholarships and academic advancement. Because in talking to youth who have successfully navigated the system, they cite two things as being critical to their success. Number one is access to higher ed, and number two is consistent mentorship, whether it be a single person or a group of people. So since 2018, we've given away just under $300,000 in scholarships. And these are college scholarships, and there were 2 vocational scholarships in that pool. That's basically what we do. We wanted to have a place where youth could feel safe, come and get information and resources. We give away a lot of clothes, hygiene items as well. And the house is perfect for that kind of activity. That's kind of in a nutshell summary of what we basically do.
Okay. So John, as you can see, we have, I don't want to shrink the screen to show more because we won't be able to read it. So we can sort of scroll through, I guess. You just give me directions. I mean, I know I have the curse. I have the power to move, but what do you want me to do?
I don't know if we should read it out loud, but we can summarize each point, maybe take, I'm not sure what to do as far
Yes.
as
Well,
time.
item number 1 is exactly what will be in any conditional use permit, that the authorized use shall be conducted at all times with due regard for the character of the district. That's normal language in any conditional use permit. But it
Okay,
has to be there, and it should be there.
And number 2 is the ask itself. To have a nonprofit private club,
Right,
calling the club in the structure.
right.
So the number 3 is it only applies to this organization, so it's not transferable.
And that's a little unusual, and it's probably a good thing. Meaning they're not asking to, they're not trying to get an authorized use as a private club and then have it then sell the property to a different kind of private club.
Yeah.
This is specific to their use, and that's good.
Number 4 is about having a membership log, and everyone who visits the site will be a member. And there's always a person in management at the club, so it's not just an open house. So I'm getting from that. The hours listed here, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and Monday. I'm sorry. Friday 9 to 5. I'm sorry, 9 to 5 on Saturdays and Sundays. No after hour use.
Right.
I'm
the person who put the yellow highlight, and this is my first question for the applicant. I don't know how often you would think to have a big event, so that I mean, in other words, that's a big deal to get a temporary special event permit.
And that would be used for our ribbon cutting because we anticipate that being a big event. That's why that was put in there.
I mean, okay, Teresa has her hand up.
Thank you, Laura. No, I'd like to know, like, will you have an annual party or an annual fundraising event? And in that case, would you be required to get a special event permit? Is that where,
No,
also kind of what you were asking, Laura?
no, this refers to a one-time event, which would be our ribbon cutting when the facility was actually opened. We do celebrate, and I should have probably included this in my initial remarks. Biddy Mason was an African-American slave that came to Los Angeles in the 1850s. And she was able to secure her freedom by petitioning the court. She went on to become one of the wealthiest women in Los Angeles. She was a midwife and an herbal healer, but she never forgot from when she came. So she was a huge philanthropist. She founded First Day of Me Church along with 8 other men in the living room of her home. So we do celebrate her birthday every year in August, on August 15th. That's her birthday. But that event usually attracts maybe 50 to 60 people, and we can do that in the backyard. We wouldn't need to use a front yard for that. Because we have a partnership with the Lutheran, California Lutheran Homes Foundation, I think the ribbon cutting would be a much larger event. We would need to do that in the front. That would require permitting.
Right. So usually I would be a person who's asking an applicant to do more and more and more conditions, but I feel that this one, I mean, I would say that it should, the language should be any special event that exceeds, and I don't know what the number is, X number of participants in the front yard and or requiring the closure of the street shall be submitted. Because I think you're really hampering yourself. It's not so easy to get a temporary special event permit. You know, what if you have a 4th of July party and you end up having the bouncy in the front yard instead of the back? I mean, you know, or vice versa. You just have some presence in the front yard. Donna, if you're still here, because you and Linda got to know the rules of temporary special event permits, right? When we were talking about that company that did those plays, immersive plays. If Donna, I can't see if Donna's still here because I'm sharing the screen. Is Donna? Maybe
And-
not.
Ms. Jackie, could you explain
Well,
the
the
nature?
point
I
is,
am
it's a
here.
big deal.
I am here. I'm here, and it's not simple. I know when we do our jazz, there's lots of steps and hoops to jump through, and frequently we work through the council district to
Right.
get anything done with LADBS because it's not a simple thing.
Correct.
Not
So
at all.
I think you need to put a few more caveats there, meaning define the number, say that if it requires the closure of the street. But I think just because you have a table checking people in the front yard, it should not be triggering a special event permit, for example.
Okay.
So, you know, so I just think you're hampering yourself here.
And could you,
This is my personal, I'm not speaking on behalf of UNSC, but that I personally would recommend a little more flexibility here.
and then also, could you explain, as you did when we visited, the nature of the events,
Oh,
people who attend, what's the caliber of the celebration?
yeah, typically, we have a scholarship event that to recognize the recipients of our scholarship program. Many of the kids are already out of state, so they're not actually there. Typically, we have probably 25 to 30 kids on hand, and we might have given away as many as 80 scholarships. Sometimes they can't come because they work, that kind of thing. But the other thing we do is we do Thanksgiving dinner on Thanksgiving Day, and we've done that since 2018. And we were able to do that in the house and yard without a lot of problems. And we've had, for both of those events, we use valet parking. those are the standard events. Now, as we move forward, there may be other smaller events that occur. For instance, on the second Sunday of every month, we have about 7 to 8 kids that come in. They tell us the speakers that they want, and we bring those speakers in. They have requested so far a real estate agent because they wanted to know about buying and selling real estate. And this month they're having a wealth management counselor come and talk to them about investing and stocks and bonds. So that's a very small group. We're not so interested in numbers, we're interested in quality. That's part of the problem with the Department of Children and Family Services. They are driven by numbers. They have to be because they're interfacing with so many kids. But a lot of kids get lost in the shuffle because they never get that individual attention, and that's where we try to fill in the gap.
Any other questions regarding item number 5, the hours and the nature of special events?
And there would probably be donor recognition events, but those again would be small events.
Okay, so no, let's move on to item number 6.
Oh, John, I do have one more question. One of the things we had discussed, Jackie, but Marie, you weren't there, was that there's no intention of renting out the house for third-party weddings and other
No.
events.
No.
Right, so that may need to be a condition. This is not a club that it's not something you're gonna rent to other people. These would be
No.
your own events.
Okay, I think that's a good suggestion. So number 6 is about the number of employees, or I assume employees are volunteers who are not the kids, as it were, foster care folks. This is about making sure everyone who's on site is aware of the CUP and the conditions therein. That monitoring, number 8 is about monitoring parking and not becoming a problem for the greater neighborhood. Smoking regulations to follow the state and county and city. You might put county in there because county might rule the roost for smoking. Applicant will maintain the premises. Prohibit emission and creation of noise beyond certain levels of adjacent uses unless technically infeasible. Outdoor lighting with shielding. Oh, we lost it. You bring it back up, Laura. I don't see it anymore.
John, are you saying, I can no longer see the shared screen? Did my share
can't.
stop?
I can't either.
All right, so I'm stopping and starting. Wait a minute, what's this? Paused. Ugh, I'll just bring it back. Sorry about that. I think it had something to do with that I muted myself, which should have been a just perfectly good thing, right? Apparently not. Okay, there we go. Do you see it? Do you guys see it again?
It hasn't come up yet.
It's working.
It's working. It's working.
Now it's there.
Okay. So lighting. So I think all these are pointing to what Laura and I understood from the meeting, that these events aren't parties per se, but they're donor events, they're professional events, they're celebratory events. But, you know, anything that could be perceived as a nuisance is probably, you know, lighting, noise is mitigated or non-existent because that's not the nature of the events. Loitering around the premises is not allowed. This is about monitoring any complaints.
Wait, did it go away again?
Nope.
So it's here.
Nope, nope,
All right, well, it just went away on my end.
So this is about how to oops, it went away again.
Love that. Love
I don't have
Zoom.
it. I don't have it in my email, so I don't.
It's all right. I put it back. Did Chris Carlson effectively join the meeting?
Yes, she did.
Perfect.
I'm starting video, sorry.
So this is 1415 is about how one might complain if they needed to, and then so the email and phone number will be available, and then protocols for addressing any complaints.
Okay.
And this is more about just addressing violations and how what that means. And just protocols for notifications. So I'm paraphrasing reading. I'm not reading it in entirety.
Right. So I'd like to ask Jackie or Marie, did you take a look? You know, remember one of the things we had discussed was taking a look at the conditional use permit, if there was one, for the single family house located on the corner of Gramercy Place and the Gramercy Circle. I'm not even remember what the street address is, but the one that the LA 84 owns, which is on Gramercy in the residential zone. I mean, in the R1 zone. Did we take a look at that conditional use permit?
I passed that information on to Aria, but I'm not sure if he, where he is with that right now. Did
Okay.
he say anything to you, Marie?
Well, I can tell you, and I want to say, Aria just had a family emergency. He didn't mean to just bow out unexpectedly, just something came up. But these conditions were copied almost verbatim from a use permit for an activity in a house. That much I know. And that he adjusted them to apply to this particular use rather than that use. But it was a single family residence occupation. And I can't promise you that it was exactly the same, the nonprofit club, but it was something similar.
Okay.
And I don't know the details more than that, sorry.
Great.
No, that's okay. So does anybody, well, John, you should ask this question, but
So I was just saying this is our opportunity to have like any questions or concerns that might arise from this use in a single family house in an R1 zone. So they've addressed noise, parking, hours of, and how to file a complaint and how those would be followed up. Anyone else have any concerns about this? Chris?
Yes, I'm still not clear why it's coming under the title club. Because we clearly have other institutions within the area that operate with meetings and have trainings and the like, but I'm not sure why club is the word of choice, and what are there special aspects to a club versus an institution that has meetings or training sessions, or I'm just not sure why we're seeing it listed as a club.
Let me try to answer that for you, Chris. We wanted to create a spirit of camaraderie. And one of the reasons we selected the concept of a club is because we want to give each youth a membership card with a magnetic strip that they have to scan when they enter. And part of the reason we want that is for tracking, accurate tracking. And to give them a glorified card gives them a sense of importance. And that's the reason why. It's more for our ability to track for funding purposes than it is to anything else, and also to give them this spirit of camaraderie.
So when people are coming and going with their key cards, their swipe cards, there isn't actual individuals from the foundation there organizing the training, the event, the gathering.
No, nothing could be further from the truth. there would
Okay.
always be someone there at the house. I mean, that we couldn't operate that way.
So just to clarify that, they aren't scanning to unlock the door and come in whenever they
No,
want.
they're scanned. We would let them in and then they would scan once they were in. And that again is for tracking for funding purposes.
Yeah.
Also tracking for inventory. How many times did John come to pick up clothing? How many times did Laura come to pick up hygiene items? That kind of thing.
And
the
one of the
hours
reasons,
For that access, could summarize those again, what the hours for the access, because when would that be 24 hour? What are the actual hours of operation, I guess is?
9 to 5 on Fridays and Saturdays, Saturdays and Sundays, and 10 to 6 the rest of the time. It's not a 24 operation. It's not like a shelter where
Okay.
you come in just any time.
and that's in condition 5. And then also I
Right.
wanted to point out that lower down in condition 8, the point of condition 8 is that the buck stops with the entity. They're not just shoving off responsibility to members or guests. They're just saying, hey, we're going to make sure these rules are enforced. We're going to be around. We're going to be policing this.
Anyone else have any questions, Laura?
Well, no, I just want to make a comment, because I think a few people arrived after the beginning. So John and I, at our last meeting, were tasked with doing a site visit, which was fine. But you should know that it's set up like a house. Walk in, it's a living room. Then there's a dining room. The clothing is sort of specialized. There's a room with clothing, but the clothing is, you have a job interview, you need a nice dress or a pair of pants. I mean, it's not a homeless shelter giving people, it's not, anyway, it's more like it looks like a house when you walk in. It's not
And it's
a
in-
homeless shelter.
And it's in, to use a real estate term, it's in move-in condition. It's well maintained, it's attractive, it's a nice house. It's lovely.
And the Biddy Mason organization also has a growing but small collection of historical photographs and artwork of, I would say African American, but maybe African diaspora artwork on the wall. So it's a interesting. It's like a house with stuff to see. Yeah.
It's next.
I may have missed it, but where is it located?
We're located at 2193 West 25th Street. We're right across the street from the Clark Library.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so when you look out there, the front door, you look at the brick wall of the Clark Library, the back wall. Any other questions, any other suggestions, concerns? Because this would be the time to voice those.
A quick question, is there any reason why it can't be called a foundation as opposed to a club?
Well, we would probably call it the Biddy Mason Center.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
To a club,
fine.
that would work.
Because I don't want to attract people looking for a place to come and have, drinks and whatever. It's
Well,
not that kind of club.
if you say club, that would kind of indicate it might be a place where they could come and drink. but-
Yeah, no, it's not that kind of place.
Is there anybody who wants to tweak any conditions, or should I unshare the screen?
Not sure.
And then,
Any other, Laura?
well, are we ready? Do we feel comfortable enough to move this forward to tomorrow night's board meeting and do a vote?
I do. I mean, just I was there and I saw it. It's legitimate. It's a nonprofit. They're doing very well with fundraising. So there's a lot of interest in the community to support them. The events that they have are professional, uplifting. So everything I got from the visit, which was about an hour long, was great in my opinion. So I don't have any reservations moving this forward or supporting a motion to move it forward. Laura?
Well, and then in addition to all of that, they are servicing the group of young people who are most at risk. We like to say emancipated foster children, but that doesn't, they're not emancipated. They're young people who've been kicked out on their keister when they turned 18 from the foster system and foster home system, or they're about to be those people. And public
Is this
funding.
term they're graduating out, the sounding like.
Yeah, there's a nice way to say it, which is that they're graduating from the system, they're being emancipated from the system, but another way to say it is they have no money and support. And the public support for these young people is getting less and less every year. So to me, an organization that's devoted to them is one that I just support. I mean, this is an issue close to my heart because when helped, they go to college, they get jobs, and they don't become youth on the street. I'm
And
sorry
we'd
to
like
be
to-
emotional, but I mean, it's just so important to divert people from the street.
Does everyone want to make a motion?
Well, I just want to say something else too. What we envision is being able to help these young people, but we also envision, one of the reasons we selected West Adams was because it's more of a community than other parts of Los Angeles. I grew up in Jefferson Park, so I'm very familiar with it. We want you to be able to come to us and have book club meetings, maybe with the kids after, over a period of time, but to give them a real sense of community, because they don't often get that. The last time we met, I asked the kids that were there, how many high schools do they go to? Now, these are all kids that we've given scholarships to. 5 high schools, 4 high schools. One girl had gone to 11 high schools. You're not going to get any sense of community coming from that kind of a background. So it's important to us that we be an active part of the West Adams community, not just there occupying space, because we want to demonstrate what community engagement looks like to these young people as well, because I think that's critical.
Great. Michelle?
Yeah, just curious, are you partnering with any other organizations? Like, I think it's called CASA, which is they help youth transitioning out of foster care, and they partner them with adults to help them understand basic things like how to open a bank account, how to fill out your W-2, things like that. Are you partnering with any organization like that, or?
With CASA for about 5 years, we've been assisting them with, before we moved away from the church, we've been assisting them with recruiting minorities of color as CASAs, because they don't have enough volunteers of color. We work with the Right Way Foundation, who also works with youth in foster care. We're a founding member of Faith Foster Families Network. So we interface. I mean, you can't do this work in a bubble. You've got to interface and collaborate with other agencies. Otherwise, you're not going to get anything done.
Thank you. Anyone wish to make a motion of support or any other suggestions?
Can I make a motion to support?
Please do.
Can I make a motion that we support this?
Yes. And then do we make any changes to or suggestions?
Well, just the one that I had suggested about defining better what requires a special event permit.
So
Defining
so
with a
Jacqueline-
number of people outdoor and/or close the street.
So Jacqueline, if that suggestion seems right to you, you might to think about your intent of your motion to support the conditions of the conditional use permit with investigation into the suggestions made by Laura. Something like that.
That's fine.
Okay.
What do I say? I agree.
You can, yes, that you can.
Well,
So
I'm
think-
typing up a motion and you can tell us if this is the motion you just made. So give me a moment. So if you're able to read the chat, see if that motion is the one.
So move to support this project, which is the establishment of the Biddy Mason Charitable Foundation or Center Club, and the conditions of the conditional use permit adjusted per the discussion about special event permits to be better defined.
I agree. That's a motion I just made.
Excellent, thank you. Do I have a second? Anybody?
I'll second John.
Excellent, thank you, Teresa. Great, any further discussion? If not, I think we should call the vote and move on to our next item. And then, oh, I guess this would be to move to support, to recommend to the governing board to support. Would that be-
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the technicality, Jacqueline. Because we're not approving anything here. We're making recommendations to the governing board, which is tomorrow night. So we're moving to recommend the governing board accept. Okay, so seeing no other hands, I say we call the vote. So please raise your hand either virtually or on camera. Oh, I see lots of hands. That's great. Thank you very much.
Laura, do I have to recruit clues because of?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Let's everyone lower their hands. Anyone object? Okay, seeing none.
And we have one recusal, John. And Chris, could you shoot an email to the city attorney? I'll give you her contact before tomorrow night. And
It's
just,
hard to see, but it looked like there was about 8 in favor, 0 against, 1 recusal. And then others who didn't vote, I can't, it's for unknown reasons. So could be they're not stakeholders, so that's fine. Okay, so I'm gonna say that passes and we will bring it to the governing board tomorrow. It's already been agendized in the event that we made a motion here. So we're all set to go for tomorrow evening.
Would you like for us to attend tomorrow evening?
Yes, I think you'll get different questions and maybe some different perspectives. So yes, you'll have a full other range of people who are going to be actually voting on it. So
so
yes,
when this meeting is over, because it's becoming clear to me, I can't go back and forth to email without disrupting this. I'll send you the agenda and the links. It'll be kind of probably after 8 o'clock, but I'll send you the
Okay,
agenda.
that's fine. That's
Great.
fine.
Well, thanks for showing up again, and we'll see you tomorrow night.
Well, thank you for listening to us, and I would like to invite anyone who's interested or has further questions to come by the house. I'd be more than happy to give you a site visit.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, next up on the agenda is item number 5. And this is, we regularly get notifications from the city in our mailbox. And this one came, and especially if they're for development proposals or demolitions in the neighborhood. We got one last week. That is a proposal to demolish 4 separate structures on one lot. Or it might be a tied lot. So it's on the corner on Bronson. The corner, what's on the corner of? Or
Corner of Bronson and Johnny Cochran, which is Old 17th Street, I think.
So it's I'll just read what it is here. Discussion and possible action regarding the pending demolition permit. So it's not pending demolition, it's a pending demolition permit of a 4-unit bungalow court. Committee will discuss what potential action might be taken. No other permits have been applied for any post-demolition development. At the time of the property sale in October of last year, some or all the units were occupied. MLS said all the units were occupied. So as a matter of just historical, we have red flags when there is demolition proposed for lots that don't have anything proposed to come after. So basically tearing down something without a plan to put anything back. Laura, can you speak to whether this is a contributor to the character overlay or how the character overlay, the CPIO, which is our specific plan,
Right.
might be involved in this?
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's a little unclear. It's hard to tell if it's a contributor to the character residential overlay district. With South LA character residential overlays, there was a motion that passed council that said that that something would be identified either in Survey LA or other survey. So while that's been difficult to track with the planning department, there's at least that language. Arlington Heights was adopted separately and a couple of years earlier as part of the West Adams Baldwin Hills Lamert community plan. And I don't remember the specificity of the language. So this may not be a contributor, although that may have been a mistake. To the Arlington Heights as a geographic place had, instead of a single identified historic district, it had more than a dozen different ones, kind of little by little by little by little. So this may have been on the edge of two different ones. So I don't know. It is, however, the parcel is subject to the broader overlay zone. And so from a design point of view and from you can't demolish without an approved project, that's all in place. That's part of it. So I don't know if you can see the screen.
We can.
Okay, so there's another oddity, and I think this is a building and safety oddity rather than an applicant oddity, but you see how it's showing as each one is a single family home, but it's not. It's a bungalow court apartment building complex. I mean, they may be, I don't even know for sure that they touch or don't touch these little apartments. They do appear, I drove by, they appear still to be occupied. And I did speak to the design firm and invited them to this meeting, but it's really last minute. And they are in contact with the planning department and working on draft designs. So they're nowhere close to an approved project. So on a technical basis, I think if we were to do anything, it would just simply be to recommend to Council District 10 that they in turn recommend to Building and Safety that these demolition permits be on hold. And I mean, they shouldn't be being processed until the whole project is approved.
And that's to be compliant with CPIO.
That would be compliant with CPIO. Well, I mean, it's just that I feel like they did this to become somehow vested, even though, I mean, there's just something wrong with the way it's being processed.
Yeah.
And Michelle and then Teresa also
Yes,
had their hands
yes.
up.
That was my next stop. Michelle?
Forgive me, Laura, I guess I misunderstood the purpose of a CPIO. I always was with the assumption, and I was just trying to look at the language because I think I've seen that. I remember when I moved here that I was looking at that you couldn't tear down a contributing structure. So I guess I'm just confused because when I looked at these online, they're definitely detached, smaller. I don't remember what the style is, but they're older buildings, and I'm
And
just,
1920 Spanish.
there you go. I'm confused how they got the permits to do, or how they feel entitled to demolish it if we're saying it's a character preservation overlay zone. And maybe I need to explain it to me in layman's terms, because I'm a little bit confused, because I thought that protected the historic nature of our neighborhood, and now there's demolition permits and people getting kicked out, which seems like or potentially getting kicked out, which is another conversation, right?
Right.
So it's unclear whether they're contributors. So even though it's a character, anything that replaces them, if something's proposed, anything new needs to be compliant with the character overlay. It's unclear whether these buildings themselves are historic in nature to be contributing to the character overlay. They certainly are with scale, but that is that doesn't mean they can't be demolished. That said, everything else you said is true, that they can't, per the CPAO, they can't be torn down, and there's there's no permit's been issued. Our opportunity to comment on the permit that's pending issuance. So, but everything else you said is true, that it needs to be, and then plans need to be in place before they can demolish anything. And as far as evicting people over there, that's a whole separate issue. And Laura, I don't even know what to say, because we don't know what's being proposed. It could be 100% affordable housing. We don't know.
Yeah, because and just really quickly, there is a building I noticed that's behind Pico. I think it's Pico and 4th. And there's clearly was an older building there and it was demolished and one of these big box houses went up. And I guess that's kind of what my concern is. And I'm still confused because it is an older historic structure, these little bungalows, and I don't understand how that wouldn't be a contributing building. I don't know if it's like each house is considered one by one, but I just don't understand how they would be able to tear something down and build something else in its place that is clearly a historic building.
Michelle,
Laura, do
I'll
you
be
want-
happy to answer passionately, but there's other people whose hands are raised, and then I'll come back on.
Teresa?
Thank you, John. And I'd like, if you can, John, to answer these. I have several questions. One, is this neighborhood is not part of the HPOZ?
It is not.
It is not. And is this a by right project? Am I using that term correctly?
We don't know. We know nothing about what they're proposing.
Okay,
Which
but
is part of the problem, because then we get a vacant lot.
okay, but would it be a TOC project?
No, it can be, but more likely it's a CPIO affordable, it's a CPIO project. There's all sorts of things people can apply for. If it's by right, I don't know how much more they can fit than what's there. So it's an odd, it depends on what they're asking for. And we just don't know.
Okay, and then lastly, you mentioned that the planning and zoning committee was notified. Does that come in through an email, through a mailing to the president? How, John, if you could let me know how you received that information?
It's hard copy. We have a mailbox that Laura manages as president, and that's where it comes through. And Laura called me and said, we got this in the mail. So it was,
Okay,
it was
great.
paper.
Okay, thank you.
Chris.
Could you explain, people keep saying it's unclear whether this contributes. Where does the lack of clarity come from? What is the quality that puts these bungalow courts in some sort of sense of maybe contributing, not contributing, maybe protected, not protected?
And I can answer that.
Yep.
Yeah, so we figured out when we were a year after this was adopted, that the language in Arlington Heights was the test case. So they drafted character residential overlay zone or overlay district, CPIO. When they created the Arlington Heights one, that was the first one. It was a prototype, and they learned some lessons. So when we got to South LA, we changed the language of how a contributor was defined to be something identified by Survey LA or other historic survey. But in Arlington Heights, it said, I think it said identified in Survey LA. And Survey LA is a bad place to start because there were so many errors. I mean, for example, not related to this, but 4th Avenue between Washington and Pico, oops, they forgot to include it. It's not there. So yeah, exactly. So your side, Michelle, where you live, south of Washington's in it, but between north of Washington all the way up to Pico, it's just non-existent. So there's so many gaps. It was an error. It also, the survey itself was done in the year 2009, and we're now in the year 2022. So it's aged. So having said that, we've successfully advocated, meaning UNNC, in Angeles Vista, that if something's period and it wasn't listed in Survey LA, they need to do a historic evaluation, whoever they are. I mean, add a historic evaluation needs to be done. And part of the reason is that the planning staff sold this whole concept of character residential overlay zone as, quote, HPOZ light, that the only difference would be that instead of having a preservation plan, they would use Secretary of Interior standards, which is a federal standard, and there would not be an HPOZ board that staff would be making decisions. So we've learned that that's not, the latter thing's not such a great idea because staff may or may not even have historic preservation education experience. The staff for case processing. It's not the HPOZ staff, it's a different staff. So all of these reasons, Michelle, is why I would look at them just with the eyes of a person who lives in a historical area and say, what are you talking about? These are historic contributors to the district, which is a character residential district. And they have that character, the original character is present. I mean, they're a bit of a shambles. I drove by today and I've looked at the photos, but they're not there. I mean, they're easily restorable. And, you know, they're in better shape than, if you can visualize the little bungalow court that's on 8th Avenue, just south of Washington on the west side, that has come back a little bit to life. It wasn't overseen very well by staff, but these are in better shape than that. So if that's a contributor, why wouldn't this be? Or the ones on 6th Avenue, just south of Venice, that are contributors. You know, if those are contributors, why wouldn't this be? So that's a really valid question that can be better answered if we can just guarantee that the demolition application process comes to a halt at this point. In terms of what's by right and not by right in a overlay zone, again, I'm really unclear because they approved also on 6th Avenue, right north of 23rd Street on the west side. It's not set back as far. I mean, there's, you know, it's that modern apartment on the west side of the street, about 4 properties north of 23rd or south of, and it's south of 21st. So it's 2 boxes. So I don't know how that fits into the character residential overlay zone from a design point of view. And it's worth having those conversations with staff. But at the moment, what we are looking at are these four separate applications for demolition. So
how do we stop or halt a process that's going to demolish something before the so-called survey could be made, or the assessment could be made of the property, and correct the fact that it's a single property, not 4 individual properties?
yeah.
How do we do,
So
what's the process to work with?
My feeling is the first step is to halt the demolition permit. And that gives us opportunity to see the proposed project. Right now on the map for the CPAO, they are not contributors. Everything else on the block is, except for this parcel. But what Laura is saying, we don't necessarily need to trust that because we have identified errors without being hyperbolic over and over again in the maps for the CPIO. So that said, how to get it added to, it's a question that we pose to the planning department, not to be hyperbolic, over and over again, and they never give us a good answer because, or their answer is, we have to go with the information that we have, and that's that. There's no way to change it except by a motion by, I think.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. The nuance of it, we need some time to revisit just the nuance of the language of the ordinance.
No. That said, we can also have a heavy say when, you know, if and when we stop the demolition because it's not uncompliant with the CPIO, then we have ample opportunity to see what the proposed project is. And then we can, you know, they can ripple off each other, I think, if what is being proposed is unacceptable or not compliant to the CPIO or the character residential overlay. So I think there's gonna be opportunity. And I think the to me, I think the hardest road to hoe is going to be getting them designated. And because we just ran into that with Van Ness, we won on that one, but just from goodwill from all around. But the
Well,
planning department-
goodwill from all around, and a council member who put a halt to a part of the process by nominating the houses for individual historic cultural monument out of frustration and desperation when the planning department staff just couldn't be creative. I know we're being recorded, but that is a true statement. This
So,
will not happen in this situation.
so that said, the planning department on something that was absolutely unquestionably a contributor, just visually, they dug their heels in and said, we cannot change it. They said that over and over, we cannot change it. So I think we just, if it's a pleasure of the committee,
So
support halting the demolition until new plans are in, and then we act accordingly when that happens.
Chris has her
Is that
hand
a-
up.
well, is that a motion or you want someone to make that motion? Of
I'm never clear if I should be making motions, Laura, as the chair. I
John,
assume-
you could suggest a motion, you could type a motion into the chat, but you should not then make it.
So I would suggest that we recommend that to the governing board that we write a letter to CD10 opposing the demolition permit for this site based on its non-compliance with CPIO rules. And
I make that motion.
I think we leave it at that. That's our first stick in the spokes.
I second it.
Thank you. And I think it's going to unfold from there because nothing's going to happen fast, especially if they stop the demo permit, and permits don't happen fast. So, and they will have to come before us unless they're
Sorry.
go density bonus
Sorry.
something.
Okay.
Okay, I'm
Better
writing this.
follow it. They go to the valley and get permission to do all kinds of things.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say if that happens anymore. I like to be optimistic. and
Oh,
say-
it still happens. So this was moved by.
Don't be optimistic, John. Don't be
I
optimistic.
can't help it. I can't help it.
Okay,
Be
guys.
optimistic,
Second by Chris.
but lock up your horse.
Okay, everybody's talking.
Okay, it
Move,
was
Move
moved by
by-
Donna, seconded by Teresa.
thank you. No, not seconded by.
Oh,
Teresa.
I'm sorry, Chris.
Okay,
When do we all vote?
We can do it right now. Any other discussion, any other questions, comments, additions, friendly amendments? Hearing none, I say we call the vote. Okay,
okay.
all those in favor of sending this motion to the governing board tomorrow night, please raise your hand. I see lots of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. At least 8. Please lower your hands. Anyone opposed? Anyone agnostic or abstaining?
And,
Okay,
and for the
that
record,
passes.
Michelle Quash did leave, but we assume she would have supported, but we can't count her vote.
Yes, it passed anyway, so
Yeah.
this is just, my feeling is this is just the beginning, and we're gonna have ample opportunity to weigh in on what happens here. And there's that. And it's a small lot. They're not gonna be able to do much, and
Well,
it's gonna be very complicated.
the zoning would allow the same number of units, which is 4 plus 1 ADU or whatever.
Plus the setbacks that are current, plus the parking. There's so many things.
Right, but I imagine they could go
don't-
taller than what it is now. So that's,
Again, it's
Yeah.
challenging. Elevators and stairs and transformers and trash closures and parking and
I'm just saying the zoning allows for 4 units, and then with state law, that would allow at least 1 more ADU.
That said, this demolition could be in advance of the next 3 parcels down and assembling a site. You just never know. But that's why we shouldn't let anything go on speculation, because then we get a vacant lot and then another vacant lot, and then there's a 50-unit project. Not that we're for or against that, but it's an accretion thing. So I think we're doing good just as we are. And
I
that's
see a
also-
bunch of hands up, but this item is done.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, no,
I just want to know how many days can you put this project on hold or months? Can you put it on hold?
It will take months and months and months and months for them to go through the development process. And they can't demolish it until their print plans are approved.
Great, thank
So
you.
we have months.
Good, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, let's move on to our last item for the evening. Let's go to a different window. Item number 6 is an appeal of the Crenshaw Crossing has been filed. Crenshaw, I will just read it. This is case number CPC 2019-5425 DB Density Bonus MCUP, which I don't know what it is, specific plan, just Crenshaw specific plan, zoning administrator, site plan review, PHP, professional, what is that? I'm not sure what PHP. Anyway, this is regarding Crenshaw Crossing, which has been before us numerous times. Most recently, last fall, it became before us a number of times. It went before, it had a hearing in December and went for a full vote to the City Planning Commission in January, where it was approved. At our last round of meetings at UNNC Planning and Zoning Committee, we raised objections not to the project per se, but to the demolition of several mature, protected native sycamore trees that are kind of off to the side of the site that the current project did not address in their environmental, or they addressed it as part of a just tree program, but didn't address these trees specifically. The CPC did not hear that argument or did not consider it and approved the project regardless in January. That project is now in its appeal window, and the project was appealed by a local appellant. And so we are now going to hear about the appeal, I assume, if someone is here to talk about it, and then at the pleasure of the committee, decide what we want to do about the appeal.
I need to make a disclosure. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Teresa. As is true over the whole almost 20 years of UNNC, I often have, and perhaps John has as well, and other land use committee members have as well. But in this case, I did provide technical support to the appellant. So I will be abstaining on this vote tonight.
As will I, because I don't have a conflict of interest, but I was on a different team for the RFP for the site several years ago. We were obviously the losing team because I'm not on the team now, but I've been recusing myself across the board for all these votes. I've been managing the discussions, but I've not been contributing to them, and I will recuse myself from or abstain from the vote as well.
So are we talking about cutting down cypress trees? Did I hear that correctly?
Sycamore trees, native sycamore. So Teresa, I'm going to hand it to you. If you could manage you know about the appeal, I believe, more than any of us.
And Teresa, do you need hosting capability? Are you going to
No.
present? Okay.
I don't think so. Thank you very much, Laura. So the UNNC did approve this 401 unit development, with the caveat that the developer do a redesign and preserve the protected sycamore grove. It's a native grove. Sycamores are protected in Los Angeles, as are 3 other species. So it's only 4 species of trees are protected in Los Angeles. When the neighborhood council was unaware that there was a protected grove, when Metro submitted their RFP and asked for bids, they did not acknowledge that there was a protected tree grove there. 3 of the RFPs were lovely, but did not acknowledge them. But 1 RFP did come back, acknowledge that the sycamores are protected. They were heritage. It was a historic sycamore grove. So when this came up before the Planning and Zoning, the Community Forest Advisory Committee, several members came in and they spoke to the Planning and Zoning Committee and shared information about trees, and particular sycamores. CPC decided they didn't want to hear anything about that, and they approved. When the letter of determination was received, we realized that there were several areas where the planning did not follow the correct procedure. Donna Jones mentioned that this is what they always do to us. And I said, well, what do you mean, Donna? She said, developers come in and cut down trees all the time. And I said, well, I believe that there are several areas in this letter of determination that we could appeal if we wanted to. I can't, but I could assist you as my constituent. So she said, yes, she'd like to appeal. So we got together along with CFAC, the Community Forest Advisory Committee, and we worked on the document. Also, we ran it past Laura for some technical review, and we appealed. The appeal was accepted, and now it is in the process of being reviewed. I'm not quite sure of the technicalities here, but what I'm and Donna are asking is that the UNNC reaffirm the initial letter, stating that they would like and support the affordable housing, with the caveat that the sycamores are protected, and the developer tried to do a redesign around the sycamore grove.
Excellent, thank you.
Anybody have any questions? Oh, also, since then, I did a request for records from Metro, and I mentioned that already, but it's clear that Metro was aware that the sycamores are protected. Beginning in 2012, they actually installed irrigation. This is when the Expo line was installed. Metro put in irrigation. They planted 7 additional sycamores adjacent to the 70-foot trees, and they put protective fencing around. So Metro was clearly aware this was a protected species of trees, and I'm not quite sure why they decided not to put constraints when they put out their RFP, but they could have, and they could have also brought it to the attention of UNNC that there are RFPs that actually acknowledge the sycamores. So
Right.
It came to, just historically, it came to we were being asked to approve the final for the CPC hearing in December. And a question came up. They offered a tree survey, and we had it in front of us at a meeting, and I believe it was October. And it was very clearly read down most of the trees on the tree survey were parking lot trees on the county building right now. There's trees in between the parking stalls. And then towards the end of it, it just stood out right there about the sycamore trees being both protected and there. So that's how it got to and then one question led to another and led to another. And then it has been grown into this concern, which is led to our vote in December at UNNC governing board, and now has led to this appeal.
So what we're asking is for the planning and zoning to reaffirm the initial letter that was already submitted, and to move that to the board so they can reaffirm that also, so that it can be submitted to the plum meeting that's coming up April the 4th.
Laura, would supporting our past motion, would that implicitly, explicitly, tacitly, or not at all support the appeal? Or does that not, would we mention the appeal, or would that not, how would we connect the two?
Okay, so what I think is, this is, again, just pure technical. I think we could recommend to the board to reaffirm our prior position, support the appeal based on that position, and file a community impact statement reflecting that.
So what I hear from that is that we're not doing anything new. We're saying
Exactly.
this is what we did before. Our motion before supports the appeal directly, and just
Right.
affirming that, and then transferring our original motion into a CIS, which we've done over and over again. It just puts it into a different channel and in front of a different and broader set of.
By using the language and file a community impact statement, it actually just allows us to, if it gets there it puts our name on the agenda for the Planning and Land Use Committee. It says United Neighborhoods.
Mhm.
You know, it just says we're in support of the appeal, and it allows us, if we wanted to speak for 2 minutes instead of 1 minute at the Plum hearing. I mean, it's not a much greater benefit, but there's more of a guarantee that we would get to speak. If it happened to be that 70 people were there, they're going to not call on everybody, but they would call on the neighborhood council. What this would not do is, because I've been copied on some emails, there's some negotiating going on maybe, but you know, in other words, between the developer, the council office, and the appellant. If they come to an agreement, our action won't be to support that agreement because we're not a party to the agreement and it hasn't happened yet.
So basically, if the appellant withdraws from any negotiation, our letter becomes basically moot because we're not.
Correct.
We're not.
Yes,
doing
well, that
anything
too,
more than what-
I'm saying, and that as well, I'm just saying, it also that, but I'm saying we're not voting on that. We would,
Correct.
right,
And I believe we cannot vote on the negotiations between a private appellant and.
well,
public.
the suggestion, because again, I was copied on an email, the suggestion from the developer was that if they couldn't reach an agreement, they would go to the hearing hand in hand
Yeah.
to ask that the city
And-
council adopts the agreement. And that's what I'm saying, we would just not do anything
And
at
we
that point,
couldn't
because
do
we
anything
wouldn't
because
have voted on that.
yes, we can't vote and play. We can't vote on the spot and say we support that. We
Right.
Yeah,
except,
and I-
except as individuals.
But
we
nor
can-
would it matter, nor would it matter.
Yep, got it.
But I think the developer has reached out to Ms. Jones, and through CD10, she did respond, but planting additional trees when it is not satisfactory.
Right,
So,
I'm just
that's-
saying, I don't know how it's going to play out between now meaning tomorrow night, and later. And is the hearing, Teresa, you mentioned April 5, there is a hearing date?
April 4th was the last that I heard that was the
Oh.
Plum meeting.
Okay,
I believe that is the date that,
because,
I believe that's the day you gave me.
yeah.
I had Plum meeting at 9 a.m.
No, it would plumb at 9 in the morning? Okay, interesting.
Well,
All right, no,
that's
that's possible.
what I
They've
had.
been all over the map of late. Usually it's late in the afternoon.
So,
So,
and just as a point, any negotiations or terms of an agreement, we're not involved with that. So
No, of course not, John.
And
I mean, I don't know if that's where that's going, but we're trying to just position
Yes.
ourselves just in case.
Yep.
And just so, I mean, I understand, and so does Donna, that this, been going on since 2018, before then, but certainly with this developer since 2018. So we're just doing the due diligence because we feel our community is in need of a tree canopy, and the trees are part of our existence here and they should be respected, and Metro should have done the right thing by putting constraints on it.
which I think our original motion said something to that effect.
right,
Yes,
So what I heard as a possible motion on the floor, which I'm just facilitating here, is to move that the governing board, recommend that the governing board reaffirm the approved motion or approved action from early December, the December 4th meeting, I think it was, of 2021. And I think that's it. I think that would be it.
and produce a CIS.
Oh, and CS, thank you.
Yeah.
Right. I knew there's a third.
yeah.
Yes,
And to produce a CIS that says the same.
right. But I will state that I don't know how to do the CIS yet, so I may need some assistance, or if we could work together to get that done, I appreciate it.
We have those resources. Okay,
So
so
Something like that. Do you see the chat?
to make prior motion from the December governing board meeting, just to.
Well, yeah, we can have,
Would you like me to read it?
yeah,
Go ahead, Laura.
Go ahead.
Recommend, go ahead, Laura.
Oh, okay. Recommend that the governing board reaffirm the prior motion and we'll put in the date. Support the appeal on that basis and prepare a community impact statement that reflects this position. So the, prior motion date was, let me just look it up.
I think I put it, I think I
December-
put it, I put it
December
in
2nd.
I put it in the agenda, I believe.
Okay, well, there we go. So, but we'd have December 2nd on the motion. But neither John nor I are making this motion.
Yes.
Right. I will make the motion. Yes, I make the motion.
Do
Can
we
I
have
have a second?
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
No, wait, you can't.
I was
I
gonna
didn't
say,
think,
Stacy
I
Appellant.
didn't think I could.
Yeah. Is there anybody
No
else at
harm in
this?
trying.
So sorry. Would someone mind making the second?
Eric's going fine.
Well, I
I'll
figured
second.
somebody
I'll
speak up
second.
then.
I'll second.
But Michael,
Oh, wait, hold on. I believe Michael's here.
oh,
Yeah, I'll second.
thank you, Michael. Okay, so we have a motion by Teresa and a second by Michael. So let's show by hands. This one, we should count this one as close as we can. So let's show by hands, your yellow hand or your hand on screen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I see 6 hands. Please lower your hands.
Right.
Anyone opposed, please raise your hand. You can do it digitally so I can see.
Jacqueline, are you opposed?
Oh, there it goes. So I see no opposed. Any recused or any abstain?
Abstain.
There's 2 of us for that. And any recusals? We don't recuse here. Okay, so that, my God, what is 6? 6, 6, 4,
and 2.
0, 6, 0, 2. That motion carries.
Yeah, right.
Excellent. Excellent as in we made progress, not excellent as in showing us support because I'm abstained. Teresa, is your hand re-raised?
Yes, I have a question. Oh, when we get to old business, I have 2 questions.
Okay. So that said, moving on to item number 6 is follow-up for any previous cases in old business. Teresa.
Thank you. I have 2 questions, John, regarding the construction that's happening on West Adams and Bronson. There are 2 buildings, Bronson and
Yep.
Montclair. I'm not sure, but there are 2 construction sites right now. It's been brought to my attention that some of the construction workers are parking in the residential area. And I wanted to ask planning and zoning, when this committee approves construction, is there not delineation where the construction people are supposed to park as part of our approval of that process?
Not necessarily, because we don't approve anything necessarily. And if there was an environmental issue about parking during the day, there's usually a plan that a contractor puts forth about where they will be parking and how they will be accessing the site and when there will be pickups and deliveries and when they'll be closing the streets. Those are all kind of environmental impacts, not necessarily rising up to CEQA, but things that need to be addressed. That said, there should be a plan on record. And if they aren't following that plan, they would be a grounds there for a complaint. So
Where can you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would say, honestly, is to call the developer or the contractor. The contractor is probably the first line of defense there. Call it, and usually there's a number posted. There's usually a trailer there.
Hey, John, it's
Yeah.
abode, right?
Of course I do. But I think that's the contractor's responsibility to manage it. Basically, the contractor owns the site while they're working on it. And they're the ones that have to address neighborhood complaints. So I would find that number. It should be posted clearly. If it's not, then I would call the developer, which is Abode Communities.
Okay, thank you, John. I'll just say this, that it was brought to my attention that the building on Washington and Gramercy, that some of the residents complained about the cement trucks coming too early, and that the planning and zoning called on behalf to make sure that those cement trucks did not show up before whatever time that was. So that's why I brought it to your attention.
Or
Go
do
ahead.
you have historical remembrance of that?
Well, yeah, it wasn't planning and zoning unless that's so imbued that it's me, but it was Katie and me and Grace because we were the ones being awakened because it's on our blogs. But it wasn't on behalf of UNNC. We would just call Sarah, even if it was the middle of the night, and say, what's going on? So, because it wasn't the cement trucks, it was the bigger problem, unfortunately, was when they were digging out the underground for the parking. Oh my God. I mean, it was shaking the entire neighborhood. And
Okay,
yeah.
I got it. So
So
that
I
I'll
know
follow
for,
up with them.
I know
directly.
for a fact that abode communities would be very responsive. The woman at the front desk, her name is Leah Klein, and she's very efficient. L-E-A
Oh, thank you, John.
K-L-E-I-N.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm gonna walk down and talk to the contractor and just say, hey, where are these guys supposed to park? Because the neighbors are upset. They're parking on the
Yeah.
street.
If that fails, call Leah at the front desk.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but Teresa, just to be clear, Katie and I would march down there in our pajamas, yelling at, but I don't think that was a UNNC activity.
Okay.
Donna, is your
thank you.
hand up for old business or commenting on what Teresa brought forth right now?
Yes, I think this is something we should maybe think about if something comes in front of us,
Mhm.
because the
Yeah,
other construction there across from West Angeles' old church, they take the entire community for their parking. I noticed them coming and going. I'm surprised the neighbors aren't complaining over there, but it's horrible. Right there next to, I guess it's Bronson going toward the 99-cent store. They use the entire neighborhood to their whatever, the workmen, trucks, everything. And the street's gonna have to be repaired after this because the large trucks have damaged it. So maybe that's something we should definitely think about when things come in front. We did speak to Abode back in the day about what they didn't want any parking, basically, very little. And we were complaining about the people that would be coming to deal with clients in the building. And we actually asked for 24-hour parking permits for Bronson, 13th, 12th, because we could see the issues that are happening now since they opened Johnny's Pastrami, because there isn't any parking. But they didn't agree with us, the neighbors there. So we told them, eat it. My hand's down.
Okay, thank you, Donna. Teresa.
All right, John, I did mention that I had two things I wanted to say. The other is I just would like clarification on our position with SB 9. I know I sent you an email a month or so ago. Planning and zoning sent out a CIS or some kind of document. What was our position on that? And was that a response to Paul Corrett's motion before the city council?
It was. We
Okay.
basically took Paul Koretz's shopping list, crossed out a few items, added a few items,
Okay.
and that was our CIS. So it was based on that, but not the same.
Oh, okay. The reason why I mentioned that is because CFAC has also submitted their statement, and I wasn't sure if that was the one that we already commented on or where we were with that, but now I understand. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Any other old business to be addressed?
well, it's not exactly, just we did get a date certain for the hearing for the oil drilling matter at Murphy's site, which will be
April 16?
or the 19th. I mean, sometime in April, later in the month, but just so everyone knows, that does mean that at the and you've confirmed with Steve, right? And John, but at
Yes,
the
I think
next
I've-
planning and zoning committee meeting, we kind of need to wrap this up as best we can.
Correct.
Because
I
it
told-
will be on the April 7 governing board.
Yes, I told him that. Teresa.
Thank you, John. I'm mentioning that, John and Laura, can you please, I sent a text to Chris about this. Can you please ask the Murphy Oil Drill people to present or to submit their emergency preparedness plan? If there's an earthquake, I'd like to know what safety measures they have. I also like to know if there is damage done, do they have a fund set aside to repair that, and how long will it take? I know that depends on the damage, but sitting in this emergency preparedness committee, I've been thinking a lot about this. So I'd like to see what that document is, and I'd like for them to submit it to the planning and zoning or emergency preparedness committee.
What I'm gonna do is I will send this to Steve
Yeah.
and have him put it on the shopping list. Laura?
Yeah, I feel like I remember the last go round of hearings to be one or two operators ago. And Chris might remember this too, that the answer was that it's actually the LAFD, the fire department, that creates that plan for the oil drilling operator. Chris, do you remember anything about that?
I can't imagine that the fire department would know their
I know.
funding source for repairs after an earthquake, what their
I'm
bond
not disagreeing with you. It was one of those sort of astonishingly stupid responses.
I think it's perfectly okay to ask them to just
Yeah.
get an update on their emergency preparedness preparations for the site. What requirements they are, if there are annual documents they have to file, or if it's just that they have a working, constantly updating practice in place. But it's perfectly fine to ask, and I think that's a good thing to request. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris.
So I put I put it in the chat as a reminder, meeting notes. Anything else? I just have one minor. Anyone who's been down Van Ness, just south of
Oh yeah, it looks great.
Venice, the two houses that we were instrumental in saving now have a 3-story, 4 units, 3 stories behind them, and you can barely see them from the street, which is just as we were hoping. And so when you look down between them, you can see them. But as far as impacting the historic character of the street, I consider that a win and consistent with everything we saw.
Are we allowed to nominate ourselves for an award of some sort?
I don't know.
No, I mean, seriously, because John, you did really great work. UNNC did really great work. I mean, the developers obviously did really great work.
Developer did great work, and so did CD10.
Yeah,
And the only one who doesn't get to join that happy wagon is the planning department.
exactly. Right, right. So it used to be that the planning department or Office of Historic Resources did an annual, but through the HPOZs, did the annual sort of HPOZ awards and asked for nominations. And maybe what we should be asking Ken, because we're self-interested, is are they going to do that again? But can they add the CP, the character residential overlay zones to the qualifying list?
So
And then and tell them why. Tell them why that this deserves an award.
They still have another 4, 5, 6 months. I'm still in contact with the developer. So I like whatever if that is in the cards and it comes out beautifully and I would want it to be a joint application with everyone who had a hand in, because that would show team spirit. And
I wonder if the Conservancy would do it. I mean, they do award their friends. I mean, it is rather insidery, right?
Let's wait for another few steps. It was just topped out, not sheathed or anything. So,
all right. But anyway, no, but I congratulate John, because you were instrumental. I mean, honestly, you wouldn't have been able to be instrumental had all the other parties not played a role, but you were instrumental.
I was a lubricant, but thank you. I accept that. Okay, great. I'm just going to go by the Venice and see progress on a UNNC land. What's the address, Laura?
1619 and 1623 Van Ness.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Anything else, old business? Hey, hearing none, it is 8:37. We're doing great. Everyone have a good evening. We'll see board members tomorrow. We'll see other people in the community tomorrow as well. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Wait, Laura, don't end.
Thank
I'm
you,
gonna
John.
save
Good
the
night,
chat.
everybody.
Thank you.
Good night,
Good night.
Lauren.
Good
Night,
night.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Good night.
Jackie.
Okay, there's that.